What's up, everyone? I'm Nick Campo. This is Eric Skalstad. He is the new Chief Growth Officer here at MBI Financial Group. He's sitting in for Ben today. Ben's out there grinding, prospecting. Myrtle Beach is his. It's his oyster, and he's eating it. So I wanted to bring Eric on because Eric is helping us grow our company. Eric is now an equity partner here at MBI Financial Group. We have Mike, our Chief Revenue Officer, who's manning the switchboard. We'll get a camera on him. I don't know if you guys are ready to see what Mike looks like yet. He's the man behind the camera, but we will have one on him, and he's also an equity partner. So MBI is doing some very, very big things. Before we get into that, and before we start talking to Eric about what his plans are, how we're going to grow this company, what he is looking for in loan officers that he's bringing over here, what he's looking for in a team, let me just make a couple, we'll call them housekeeping announcements. So first and foremost, what I need the people to do is bang that red subscribe button and turn on your notifications. That way, anytime the Loan Guys podcast post something, post a video, post information, post anything at all, you know, because you've banged the red subscribe button, you turned on notifications. Go and follow us on all of our social media. We're MBI Financial Group, LLC, across the board. Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9:30 to 10:30, we will be live from this studio on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9:30 to 10:30. We're going to start having guests. We have some very big guests lined up talking about building wealth through real estate. Anything associated with mortgage and real estate, we're going to have those guests on. We're working on some artificial intelligence people who design underwriting stuff. We're working on all kinds of things. And I'm sure Eric has some ideas on people he wants on as well, because if there's somebody important in this industry, he knows them. He's been the best recruiter that I've ever seen, which is why we brought him in as an equity partner, chief growth officer, because NBI Financial Group, I've told you guys since day one, we're here to stay. We're going to do what it takes to be the biggest, baddest mortgage broker shop in the country. And with that being said, let me say first off, Mike, thanks for running the board.
Absolutely.
Good morning. Thanks for being a great partner of ours. Eric, thank you for coming aboard and being a great partner.
Thank you for having me.
I want to hear, first and foremost, welcome to working at a broker shop compared to a lender.
Right.
I know you've worked with the broker channel before, but welcome. Talk to me a little bit about where your mindset is coming aboard here at MBI.
Well, you know, I've worked at traditional retail lenders for the last 7+ years, and by doing that and seeing the ups and downs and going through COVID and seeing the production rise and fall and seeing loan officers drop out of the market and new loan officers enter the market, I've been able to kind of see things from all sides of the coin. And I've noticed that the traditional retail lending model is starting to become a thing of the past. And most traditional retail lenders are, without wanting to admit it,
They're dead.
They're dead. And they're starting to want to adopt the broker model, again, without them really wanting to admit it, because what it's doing is it's opening up more options for the borrower. It's providing more products. We're not held to a small suite of products. We're not held to a small pool of people that we can recruit from. And as a result, I think that we're going to have a lot of growth and a lot of success. And I think that there's a lot of loan officers out there that maybe could use some more coaching, some more development. And at some of the big box lenders that are, in my opinion, are probably on their way out in the next few years, they have so much overhead, they have so many employees, they have so many people doing the same job that a lot of the people that are new to the industry, especially producers that are doing less than, say, $1 million a month, they're not getting the resources, the coaching, and the help that some of the other higher producers are getting. And it's a tremendous amount of talent that is not being developed and potential that is probably not being seen.
So one of the things that I always said was we want the Navy SEALs of sales teams. We want wolves. We want sharks. There's a whole joke. There's a whole clip on it. It went viral on TikTok. Sorry, America. I know that's China, but at the same time, TikTok we get a ton of views on.
Of course.
So it went viral because of the mindset that I'm looking for. But the other thing I always say is, and Mike, you might need to Google this for me. What is the saying on the side of the Statue of Liberty? Because to me, America, greatest country in the world, I think to a lot of people, it is. There's the American dream. There's no other country that has dream behind it. They don't say the Russian dream or China's dream,
right.
or it's the American dream, right? And part of that is home ownership, which is a byproduct to me of the American dream. To me, the American dream is, capitalism. You can start a business, you can make money, you can buy a house, you can raise your family here, safe community, so on and so forth. But on the side of, Mike, can you read that quote to me that's on the side of the Statue of Liberty? Because I think of this with what you're saying, and I'm going to bring it back to what you just said.
Sure.
Yeah, it's give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wrench refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
So to me, that is our saying here at MBI Financial Group. Give me your tired, your weak, the homeless. I lift my lamp to thee. Exactly. So to all that talent that is out there, all that talent that is at their lender, you're being underutilized. You aren't getting the same resources. They aren't putting the investment into you. And a lot of it's a mindset investment. I tell everybody who comes to work here, if you do what we tell you to do from a sales standpoint and you invest in yourself and in the mindset, we will coach you up and show you exactly what you need to do. We'll lead you to the water. All you have to do is drink it. I'm saying, hey, Movement Mortgage might have a bunch of people that don't have the resources or aren't feeling good there. If you're not feeling good there, if you don't feel like you have the resources or the products or definitely not the pricing, I know that. I go day to day against Movement. Pricing's not there. If you don't have that, reach out to us. Reach out to Eric.
Please.
Fairway, Summit, anybody you could think of. I'm trying to just think of retail lenders off the top of my head.
Guaranteed rate, cross country.
Guaranteed rate, cross country,
Guild,
Rocket,
I mean,
Guild.
yeah.
Oh, I would love to take some people from Guild. Yeah. Listen, here's the thing. They're Goliath, and right now we're David.
Right.
And when they punch, it might hurt because they might punch back at us for saying this.
Right.
But you want to know what's weird about me? Whenever I would get in a fight as a kid, I would just stare at the person. I'd be like, hit me. You hit me first.
Yeah.
Because I like to feel a little bit of pain.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like I need to justify what I'm about to do.
Exactly. Exactly. So my whole thing is like the Statue of Liberty, the saying on the Statue of Liberty, I believe in the American dream. Shout out to France for sending that over to America. Great gift, by the way. Our torch is on. Our light is on. MBI Financial Group, we will shine the light for you. The reason I brought Eric in and what I said to him is I want the person who has the right mindset but isn't producing $1 million a month. I want the $250,000. I want the $300,000, the $500,000. I want to be the person who puts the resources in place that nobody else puts for the person who's not producing $1 million plus, $2 million plus, $3 million plus. So when they come in here, all they have to do is they go out and they get a mortgage application. Once they get a mortgage application, it goes to our team of, high-level underwriters, DE certified chums, Lars Lapp, and we're a broker shop, so we don't even underwrite in-house.
Right.
But the other thing we have is Candor Technology, which is artificial intelligence that underwrites a file in it's averaging 12 and a half minutes right now. 13 minutes we can underwrite an entire file, know every single condition we need. So we can issue a pre-approval in 4 business hours. It's a true pre-approval, a TBD underwritten pre-approval in 4 hours or less, because guess what? And guess what the loan officer's doing that whole time? Prospecting, going out and getting more business, learning sales techniques, doing everything that a salesperson should be able to do, creating partnerships, because we have a team. It goes to our processor one. Our processor one will do the pre-approval, give them multiple options depending on the lender. And the best part about it is when that pre-approval is issued, it's fully underwritten. So when we do get a home under contract on purchase, it goes to the lender, and we average 14.7 days from contract to clear to close because we've already underwritten it. The next thing is guess what? They don't have to process their file. We have another DE certified underwriter. She is a killer. Her name is Candace. She is the best of the best at what she does. She goes in, she gets every single condition that the lender may come back with, whether it's like something like the LOX, something simple typically, title, HOI, insurance, all that is done through Candace. Our our loan officers, they don't even have to pull credit. When it comes time for closing, we handle that for them as well. So what we did was we designed a business model that is faster, more able. We can do more products. We do it with better rates than anybody else in the industry because mortgage brokers, this is a true article, Google this, save the consumer on average $9,400 per transaction. That's HUMDA data, right? That's what that is. And it's saving $9,400 per transaction. We don't have to say no to anything. I literally had a 580 credit score manually underwritten $400,000 purchase that we got closed in 14 days. I did that personally. I'm averaging $3 million a month while running a business because of the support staff we put in place. And unlike the movement mortgages of the world and the big, lenders out there, I'll even go, we won't get into throwing bows with our fellow mortgage brokers yet, but some of you know I'm coming. We provide the resources starting day one. We don't say, hey, you have to hit this production level to get these resources. Oh, by the way, another great thing that I refuse to do here at MBI? I will not cap your monthly commission check.
Think about that.
Think about it. I will not cap your monthly commission check. We put a process in place to where all you have to do is go out and bring in business. You don't even have to pull credit. You get paid well. We have car programs, custom suit programs, ladies, custom purses, designer purses. Designer purses. I'm not a big purse guy, but we got the designer purse program. We have a watch program. We have profit share that's going into place. Think about that. What other companies are doing that for their people? There's nobody. There's nobody. And guess what? The profit share is also going to apply to our operations team. Hey, operations, underwriters who maybe you're sick of having to manually underwrite a file, but you still want to make $150K a year. You can come here, have Candor Technologies, Thomas Showalter, look them up, Candor Technologies, artificially underwrite a file. You're overseeing it, and you can still make $150K a year because of how we have our comp structure. We have the most competitive, let me say this again, we have the most competitive, actually, no, it's not the most competitive. It is the best by far comp structure that nobody else can compete with in the entire industry for both our operations staff and for our loan officers.
Yes.
Because NBI Financial Group, the one thing I believe in is people. And I've been at the big lenders. I've been a producer at them. I've seen the resources that were dumped into me. This man sitting to my right, Eric, he recruited me to go to one of them. Shout out Cardinal Financial Wholesale. And there was no resources. Everything was done on your own. Nobody makes it on their own. Now, you can make it as a producer, and then you'll get resources when you hit it. But you don't grow. You don't become the best by yourself. And anybody who thinks that is wrong. So I applied that concept to our process here, and I said, now what do I need? Well, we went and got Mike. And you all know that Big Boss Ben started this thing with me, and shout out to him for that. We went and got Mike, Chief Revenue Officer. We went and got Eric. My brother came in, and he's been a huge help, and he's crushing it, over $2.5 million in his pipeline. Ben, who just started producing less than a month ago because he was able to step into that role as he wanted to and develop a market, is over $2.5 million. I have over $2.5 million in my pipeline personally. We have new guys out there like Trey Estes. Trey Estes has had 15 applications in less than 30 days. Our process works. Yep. Eric, I am fired up to have you because here's what I have said. I'll keep the lights on. I'll put a team in place. And once that team gets in place, with the help of the team, and you and Mike, you're taking a ton off my plate, and I appreciate y'all for that.
Of course.
But the missing piece, and Mike have talked about this, we need to go get good people, and so many good people.
Well, one thing I want to kind of insert here at MBI Financial, which links back to Lady Liberty, is she was built to celebrate and inspire.
Yes,
that was the beginning, and I feel like that art is gone in the business world. Now it's just all about the dollar at the end of the day. It's not about the people. It's not about celebrating them. It's not about inspiring those gals and girls to the guys to see what they're made out of. See what they're capable of. Pull the best out of everyone. That's what you do when you develop a team. And that art is lost. I love the fact that Eric's here. I think that when he speaks, a lot of people listen.
Oh yeah.
And everybody's going to want to come work here. I think the future of MBI is just monumentally huge, and I'm excited about being a part of it.
And I'm going to tell the Goliath real quick, and then I want to hear you speak, because I'm going to tell the Goliath we're coming, and it's not a threat.
It's just a fact.
It's a fact. We're going to grow. We're going to be bigger. We will be the biggest broker shop in the country. I've been saying this for 2 years now. The pieces are in place. Watch the growth in 2024. It's going to be there. for all the people who try to copy the concept, because there's a few of y'all, you can't do what we do.
Right.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you trying, and it kudos to you. It's a shout out to me and Ben and our process that we created, and now it's going to be the guys here, and the pieces are in place. What do you got for me, Eric?
Well, and Mike, I appreciate that. The feeling's mutual. Coming into NBI, I've learned over a long time of recruiting, 12 plus years, that the biggest mistake people make in hiring and growing their business is they take the personal aspect out of building and they replace it with the transactional aspect.
Absolutely.
And the unfortunate part about that is that, I always make the joke and say, if I look at someone's license, I know where you live, I know what your name is, I know what your height is, but I don't know your story. And I equate that the exact same thing to a resume. When I look at someone's resume, I know what your work history is. By the way, I can just check it on LinkedIn too. But when I look at your work history, that's great. I see what you've done. I know where you're located. I got your email, but I don't know your story. And to me, I have a very interesting story and that I'm very proud of. And it's a very long one, probably for a different podcast.
Let's hear it. No, come on.
So for me, my dad started in the industry in various different roles. And when I was a kid, my dad actually taught me how to recruit without me even really knowing. He would give me resumes to look at and certain words to find and hand it back to him. I was doing his dirty work, didn't know it. But what it taught me is that everybody has more than what they put out front. Everybody has a story. And that story is truly what is the maker and breaker of that person's success. And when you accompany a good story and somebody that has gone through adversity and you attach that to hard work and hope and faith in what you do, it's impossible for you to fail if you maintain that trajectory. And so when I'm talking to loan officers or branch managers or market leaders or regionals, whatever I'm recruiting, I start to realize that I start to assess what their mental and emotional compartmentalization levels are, whether or not they can handle the stress, whether or not when a loan goes sideways, are they going to abuse their underwriters? Are they going to get upset because they have 2 bad months and infect the office? And all of those things typically happen. I have a famous question I ask every single person. I asked you this. I ask every single person this question, and those of you out there that I've interviewed, you know that I ask this. The question is, and I preface it by saying, I've been in the industry 12 years. My father was in the industry. I know that this industry can be amazing. I know it can be extremely financially rewarding, but I also know that it provides a lot of anxiety, a lot of sleepless nights, potentially put a little bit of a wedge between you and your spouse for a day or two. And the question I ask is, what makes you get up every day, throw that rifle over your shoulder, and go out and hunt? Why do you continue to do this? And then I'd be quiet. At that moment is when I truly find out who that person is. I hear their story. I know what their motivation is. I know why they're doing this. And I know really how committed and dialed in to what they do that they are. And that's typically how I structure whether or not they pass my sniff test, if you will. And Nick, I God bless Nick, when we first spoke 4 years ago at this point, maybe 5 years ago, back in 2019, I think.
Yeah, it was probably about 5 years ago.
Yeah. I immediately recognized that, one, Nick has it. Two, his hard work and everything that he had learned leading up to this point is what got us on the phone call. And then I recognized that within myself. Everything that I've done leading up to this point has got me on the phone with Nick. And what I recognize in Nick is that the professionalism is extremely high. Your polish is extremely high, but you're also not afraid to get your hands dirty and your elbows dirty. And those are the types of people that I like to work with. I'm not a cut corners guy, but I make things work.
Exactly. One of the things I want to preference, you said professionalism, and I appreciate the kind compliments. I'm a very professional person, but I'm not a corporatism person.
Not at all. Yeah.
So if you're at a big company and you're expecting, the CEO to walk into an office and shut the door and never talk to you about your production or anything you're doing, we're not that company.
No.
Because I'm still producing, actively producing, and this conversation I had with both Eric and Mike, I don't know if I want to give up producing. I like being on the front lines, taking bullets with my people, and knowing what the marketplace is seeing so that we can adjust quickly, because any business needs to be nimble. Now, I know there's going to come a point where we grow, and I'm going to be required to do different things. I understand that. You mentioned that there's a series of events that led us to this conversation, this podcast, and you coming into the business. I believe in putting, first off, I'm a very faithful person, so I have the 4 F's: faith, family, fitness, mental and physical, and I got to work on the physical a little bit, and finances. finances is fourth on the F's, right? So I'm in church. I think I texted you. You had texted me all fired up when you started. Talked to Mike. I had walked 2.5 miles after prospecting all day in Charleston to get to a church to get my ashes for Ash Wednesday. That's the person I am, and I don't hide that. Family is number two, and that comes. And Mike has seen this a lot, and you're probably seeing it as well. My family is number two to me. Then it's the fitness, and I do a lot of reading, so there's the mental side of it. I'm hit or miss on the workouts. I'll go, 6 to 8 months strong working out, and I got a little bit bogged down here as we were expanding, so I'm planning on hitting that again. That's a 2025 goal. And then finance is last because, and if you look, there's a core value, and there's something that we're also looking for is high character individuals. Right. And you mentioned that there was a series of things that led us here. So I don't know if you know this, but the first phone call that we had was when you were recruiting me to come to Cardinal, and I had just gotten to $8 million in locked pipeline after 2.5 months at NewRez. And, I'm very appreciative to NewRez, but I was I was an underwriter for 4 or 5 years. I was in closing when I first started. Well, I started in the industry. It was before they had the technology at Rocket Mortgage. It was Quicken Loans back then, to where I would have to check if NMLS numbers were active. So I would get a spreadsheet every day with all the loans that closed, and this was in the wholesale, the broker channel. Yep. And with the broker's name and their NMLS, and then I would have to go on NMLS Consumer Access and check it. And this is when they first opened up their broker division. So it was over here in South Park in Charlotte. And I interviewed at their old office. We moved into the new office that they're currently in. It was just the second floor. It wasn't even full. I think I was like maybe the 35th hire in the wholesale division there. Right. And so it started out with, there was like 15 to check, and I was done in 25 minutes. Right. And then within a couple of weeks, it was 90. And then a couple of weeks after that, it was 200. And then it was 500, and I couldn't get through all of them in a day. So then they hired a person named Michael Taylor. Shout out to Michael. He's a good friend of mine, actually from right here in Rock Hill area. So we split it. He went on to be a big-time underwriter and worked on solution underwriting actually with Ben. He's good friends with Ben as well. And then I went into underwriting. And if you know my personality, I was a top-producing underwriter, but I hated it.
Right. I imagine you did.
But I did it because the money was really good. It's like that goal. But, then I met my wife. I met my wife while I was there. Ended up, she took me for my birthday to go to Asheville. And I came up with this idea for brewery tours. We need a bus. So my first real foray into business, I had investment property Ben and I had bought together at that point, but it wasn't, that's not as much of a day-to-day business. So Liz and myself and Ben, we started Charlotte Brewery Tours. That's my first foray into entrepreneurship. Right. At the same time, Liz was telling me I needed to get into the sales side of mortgage, and I was not listening yet. I was still a young man in my 20s, and we learn as we get older that our wives are probably right. So we started Charlotte Brewery Tours. It did well. We sold it to Charlotte Nightlife. But while I had that, it was on a birthday a couple of years later. I was drinking a beer, and the mechanic who would work on the bus, so we used to take people to all the breweries. I know all the brewery owners because of it. Maybe not some of these new ones, but sold that in 2018, I think it was. And then in 2018 as well, I started a tractor trailer company. Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that actually kind of taught me how to manage a business a little bit. Loan officers are easy. Truck drivers are not easy.
I bet.
Salt of the earth people, but there's just they're built different, man. They just are. Yeah. Nothing bad to say, but just I'm a young kid, 28 years old, starting a trucking company, working in mortgage. It was 100-hour weeks, right? So long story short, I start that, and that kind of blows up in my face a little bit. But at the same time, it was going well for a little while. I got up to 3 trucks that I owned. I just actually sold the business, but I got up to 3 trucks that I own, and all of a sudden, 2 out of the 3, insurance on those things are like $1,100 a month.
Right.
And 2 out of the 3 of them, their engines blow up. So now 2 are sidelined, and now I'm having financial issues. But part of the reason for it was I didn't stay at Rocket. I was a couple minutes late. One of my leaders brought me in, and I shouldn't have been late, and that was on me. But one of my leaders brings me in, and he says to me, he said, hey, man, we're going to have a conversation. And I was just worked every single weekend because we were doing weekend underwrites. It was so busy and so on and so forth. And I was like 5 minutes late. And he was going to give me a warning, verbal warning. I said, don't worry about it. And I still like this guy. He's a good, he's a friend that I can talk to. And I saw him at a wedding recently, and we had a great conversation. I said, don't worry about it. I resign. So I resigned on the spot.
Right.
So now I'm out in the world just running a trucking company. Funny story, and Joe will tell you about this when you go back on the floor. I was trying to get Joe into the mortgage industry at the time, and he was walking in for an interview with that same person I just resigned on. So I'm walking out, I'm like, see you, Joe, I just resigned. He's like, are you freaking kidding me?
Thanks for laying the groundwork, man.
Long story short, he did not get the job. Unfortunately, he deserved it. He should have gotten it, but he did not get it because of me.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, right. So anyways, I resigned. So when we met, the trucking company, so Liz and I were engaged. We were about to get married. So we were engaged, and we actually had to move the wedding up. It wasn't a shotgun wedding, but we moved the wedding up. We have a kid on the way.
Right.
Trucking company blew up. I'm selling my house up in Charlotte that I bought. It was a foreclosed home in Madison Park. Selling it because I have a ton of equity. Bought it for $125,000. Ended up selling it for like $350 or something like that to pay off some, literally all of our debt. But I don't have an income, and we're going to buy a house, and we're having a kid, and we're getting married, and all the stuff that you want to do and you're super excited about. Well, inside I'm like, well, I better figure something out quick.
Right.
I missed mortgage because, Jeff Fleming, shout out to Jeff if he's watching this. Jeff is, he got me into the mortgage industry. He knew my dad coached baseball with him. I have a younger brother, 13 years younger. Right. Jeff got me that job at Rocket. Teresa Shoemaker, shout out to her. She probably saved my job a few times because I was a young, temperamental kid. So I was working with them, and Jeff Fleming told me when I first started, first day in the mortgage industry, he said, once you join the mortgage industry, you never leave. He said, you'll try, but you're going to come back. And that's the true story. And I love this industry. I really do. I didn't really like trucking, but I was pushing through it, trying to do it for my family, so on and so forth. Trucking company blows up. I'm having financial issues. I get hired at NewRez in December of that year. Absolutely crushed for the first 2.5 months. And this is when we talked. It was 2020 now that I'm remembering, because I got hired in December of 2019 at NewRez. Absolutely killed it. $8.5 million in locked pipeline. And then COVID hits. And I remember driving into the office. They had the Charlotte office. And Josh Habib actually hired me, took a chance on me in sales. Shout out to Josh, another mentor of mine. And they canceled the NCAA basketball tournament. I was listening to ESPN radio. I'm like, we're screwed.
Right.
We are screwed. Like, if they just canceled March Madness, which creates $6 billion in revenue in like a weekend, we're screwed.
Right.
The world is ending.
The world, I was like, well, this isn't going to be good. And we had just moved in. My wife and I had just moved into our house in Rock Hill. Nick Jr. was born on January 12th of 2020. So I have a 2-month-old at home.
You mentioning that when we talked.
Right. I was working from 8 in the morning till 9 at night because, when you're an account executive partner with people like ourselves, brokers and loan officers and such, we didn't have to be licensed in states. So I would literally call the East Coast. Then when the time would change, I would call the Midwest. And then when the time would change, I would call the West Coast. And I remember actually talking to somebody in Los Angeles the day that Kobe Bryant died.
Right.
It was just, and I was a huge Kobe fan, but Kobe Bryant died in that helicopter crash. And I remember being on the phone with him, and he kind of broke down in tears, which I understand. And it was just, but anyways, long story short, COVID hits and NewRez stopped lending.
Right.
And not only did they stop lending, if you were hired within the last 3 months, they got rid of you.
You were gone. Yeah.
You were done. They only kept 2 people on my team, and shout out to them. They made bukus of money once they started lending again because they had all of our business. So they inherited all of our accounts and so on and so forth. But when I talked to you, I had a little money in the bank still because I had sold that house. But I remember I was standing on my front porch, and I was doing like home projects and stuff, and Liz, shout out to her. She's a freaking warrior. She was supporting the family financially and paying the bills, and that house in Rock Hill wasn't in my name because I couldn't qualify for it because I was self-employed because I had quit Quicken, and she held the torch for me for a while, and she believed in me, and she's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go back into underwriting? I was like, no. She's like, you need to be in sales, and she kept pushing that. You called me. I don't know how. Oh, Jeff Sherwood.
It was Sherwood.
Shout out Sherwood.
Jeff.
Jeff Sherwood, and he actually referred somebody over here that we closed the loan for, so I appreciate Jeff a lot. But yeah, he said, come work here. And I said, okay. And he said, I'm going to have this guy named Eric call you. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, recruiter. And so you called me, and we talked on the phone for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It was a long conversation. And I wasn't sure because as you were calling me, I forget, there was 2 other lenders calling. Oh, yeah, one of them was Dave Schroeder at Caliber. He wanted me to come out to Dallas. He had just taken a position there. And shout out to Schroeder, another mentor of mine in this industry, or somebody I look up to in this industry, and, great guy. And I was thinking about doing it, and I was also thinking about possibly starting a broker shop at that standpoint because I knew I was an entrepreneur. Like, that's what I am. Like, the trucking taught me that. The Charlotte Brewery Tours taught me that. I had an investment property at the time. I like housing. I really love housing and mortgage. I like mortgage because I like financials, but I love real estate as well. Like, Mike can tell you, I have a couple side projects that I'm doing right now, building wealth through real estate. And Mike's helping me with. Ben's helping as well, but I really like that piece of it, and I've been doing that for a while. And but you said to me, you were like, listen, and this is what sold me, and this is why as soon as I started this shop, I had the vision that I was going to bring you aboard. You said, listen, forget everything that Cardinal Financial Wholesale offers. From a people perspective, if you are walking through a dark alley, we're the people who are going to have your back, and we will brawl with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That wholesale channel was very special. Shout out to Carl Benjamin, Colin Treen.
Shout out to Carl. He called me before I left there. I ended up going back to Nerez, and Carl called me.
Yeah.
And I have all the respect in the world for Carl. Yeah. I'll never forget my conversation with him. He almost convinced me to take a lot less money at the guaranteed money at the time. I would have eventually made more money. Sure. But I was getting a guarantee from Nerez to come back after they started lending again. That was like, I talked to Clay Carr, and shout out to Clay, who's one of the top producing account executives at Cardinal. Right. Another guy that I'll bend his ear and he'll give great advice. But yeah, Clay was like, dude, I don't know if I should say this, but he's like, it almost seems too good to be true.
Yeah.
And it was. But Carl almost convinced me to stay because Carl has this magic about him when he talks to you. Yep. And it's just like, man, you talk about people getting you to buy in.
Carl is brilliant, and he's extremely good at what he does. And he never called me Eric. He always called me the Viking or Viking.
You kind of look like a Viking.
I am Norwegian. Last name is Skalstad.
Burn the boats, baby. Burn
the
boats.
ships. Yeah, and that's something that my grandfather taught me. It's very, very true. And for all those of you out there that don't know what burn the boats means, when Vikings would invade a foreign land, they would hop off the boat, they'd land on the beach, and the captain of the ship would burn the ships behind them, so there was no room for retreat.
I love it.
We were going to go there for a reason, and we were going to be successful. Simple as that. And that's the mindset that I've always taken in business. And really that wholesale channel that you were referring to, the people on that channel were absolutely amazing. I'd definitely love to make a shout out to a guy named Tony Keiko, who brought me to Cardinal and provided me a tremendous amount of support and gave me an opportunity to have those opportunities presented to me. And, meeting yourself and people like you and staying positive.
Oh, yeah.
Staying positive is such a rare thing that we see, especially now. And that's why I think a lot of the personal aspect has been taken out and the transactional aspect has been inserted, because we all forget that we're a human before we're an employee.
Right.
And so, when I met Nick, again, very, very polished, very professional, but Nick knew how to get things done. And that was something that I immediately heard. Now, it took an hour and a half of a conversation to make sure that everything was good.
It still does.
But I was bought in, which is why I'm here now.
Well, and here's the deal, is same can be said for you. You're one of the most positive people, and you're like a happy positive. Yeah. My positivity is more of I'm walking through the dark valley right now with a sword and a lantern and having a good time doing this, and that's not for everybody. Right. So great compliment. And Mike's the same way. Mike's super positive. Mike, have we been through a few things in this business so far?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you're equity partners in a business, right? And you go through some stuff, and you have to have honest conversations with people, and, hey, here's where we're at, here's what we're doing, here's how we're doing it, here's what the game plan is, here's how we're going to fix this. But there's times when you're starting a business, and every entrepreneur out there, even the ones who try to copy our business model and stuff, I respect the fact that you're starting the business. Right. There's always going to be a respect factor there, because one, it takes a set of cojones, and number two, it's not an easy thing to do. And there are going to be times, if you want to make it, you're going to have to walk through hell, but just keep going. keep walking,
Yeah.
because that's what it feels like at times. There's going to be anxiety-riddled nights. There's going to be nights that you stay up. And a lot of people don't understand that about the entrepreneurship piece. And part of the reason I respect Big Boss Ben so much, and I'm calling him that for the viewers, but Ben Singleton so much, is because he walked that for the first 18 months with us. When we moved into this office, there was 4 of us.
Right.
This is a 4,000 square foot office. Dude, it was so big, I thought I was hearing noises thinking like ghosts were coming around the corner. But what I'm getting at is the positivity mindset. And I think during the COVID stuff, when everything shut down, the number one thing for me, and I think this is where we connected, and I was like, I need to work with him in the future at some point. I don't know what it's going to be. I know I'm going to have my own. I was either going to do lend or a broker shop, and I love the broker model, so we went broker shop. Yep. Which doesn't mean we won't have a warehouse line eventually, but we won't be a true lender. We might go non-del or something. Right. I'm not sure yet. But long story short, what I loved was the positivity, right? And this is what I preach to our loan officers, every person out there. I talked to Joe Ben Fry about this yesterday. If you don't go through the tough times, keep a positive mindset, keep pushing, then the good times just aren't as good.
It doesn't change you. You know, I was talking to Mike about this the other day. We were kind of just talking shop over dinner, and we were discussing how certain levels of income doesn't change how we feel.
No.
It didn't change our level of anxiety. It didn't change our level of commitment to the people that depend on us. And so, you know, for me, and this is the same way for you, and I know it's the same way for Mike, I love the feeling. I love the juice. I love the excitement of building and doing something. You know, I find there's a quote that says, you know, when a man doesn't have purpose, he indulges. And the last thing I want to do is become an indulger of things that are negative. I'd rather indulge on progress.
I agree.
But to add to that, man, I mean, it's what I love to see is growth too. You know, you bring somebody into the business that's never been here, you coach, you teach, you walk through the valley with them. I mean, it's all about team. It's all about preparation too, and to get them ready to, hey, look, this is not going to be the easiest walk that you've ever had, but man, when you get to the end of it, you're going to feel like you're somebody, and you are somebody. I mean, and then you have the team that we've put in place too to walk with you.
Yeah.
It you know, it makes it a little easier on you. You know, it's all about having a team that supports you. And like we talked about earlier in the podcast, I think that's something, a lost art. You know what I mean? It's almost like I instead of we.
Right.
You got to have that.
You want to know why that started? The whole I credit cards. Credit cards started the whole instant gratification. This was me.
Right.
And then also rap music. Look what I did. I'm self-made. And I love rap music. I'm a bit like, listen, you put some 50 Cent on, many men.
Yeah.
Many,
Right, of course.
But at the end of the day, it's like we have built into our culture, and it's something that I'm trying to change. Well, we don't even have to change it because the people we brought in are great at that team aspect. We all have to look within at some point and be like, hey, it's not about me. It's about us, right? And, you know, that, and I was, you know, half joking about the credit card thing and rap music.
Of course, yeah.
We're looking for high character individuals. We're looking for people who want to come in here who want to build as a team. We're like the quote on the Statue of Liberty: "Give me your lost, give me your homeless, give me your weak, give me your poor. The light's on for you.
Right.
We're here." And but with that, understand it's like we talked about this. I picked you up from the hotel today to bring you in, and shout out to you for eventually, you know, moving up here and being part of this. Like
Absolutely.
That's a huge commitment to us, and we really appreciate that. But the David Goggins Can't Hurt Me book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the mindset that I am talking about, and that intensity that we have to come in with every single day. And there's nothing greater for me than seeing what we put in place pay off for somebody.
Right.
I was telling a couple of our loan officers, I said, and I'm actually thinking about doing this, and I don't know if it's professional or not, but when they hit a $45,000 paycheck for a single month, I want to get them framed and have maybe a $40,000 or $50,000 per month wall.
Right. Yeah.
But what I want to happen is that so many people are hitting over that number that we have to up it and get rid of some of those.
Right.
So maybe start with
Get a bigger office for more wall space.
Right. Or maybe we start with 20K, and then when the wall fills with 20K, then all the 20K comes down, and 30K commission checks go up there.
I love it.
And then the 30K commission checks come down, and then it's the 40. And when that wall fills, and then we take it down, maybe we should do it right here.
Maybe you should have one for the century mark.
Oh man, the
I
Century
love
Mart.
that. Well,
Listen,
we'll put that on the ceiling.
yeah. Now we might blow that up and make it its own wall
Right.
for the first one, but
Actually-
it's going to be so many that
But you know what? The point that I think that you're trying to get at, which is phenomenal, is that there's so much talent and there's so much potential that's not being recognized.
Correct.
And people that are producing and doing an amazing job every single day, doing what they're asked of, getting out brand awareness, closing loans, doing things the right way, protecting their company. And their company is not treating them as if they're doing those things. And they're not getting the resources needed. They're not getting,
they're getting their commissions capped.
Exactly. I
You've
mean,
talked to some people.
I have, as of recent, even as of yesterday, where their commissions are capped. They're in a position where they're not getting any support. They're feeling like they're on an island alone. And whenever you're feeling that way, there's only so long that you can have the inspiration. You can only be so inspired for so long, and then you get up one day and you think, if I don't make a change, then I'm not going to progress at all.
Well, let me ask you a question. What that number that you talked to a couple of people who said that they had their commissions capped. What was the number they were getting capped at
They originally were capped at 8,000, and now they're
per loan?
yeah, and now they're
Per loan or per month?
per loan. Pardon me, per month.
Per month.
Per month, and now I spoke to someone as of recent that now it's down to 6,500.
So they're getting capped at. So they could close 50 deals and they only make $6,500.
Yeah.
You can make 8,000 per loan here.
Exactly. And that's why the broker model is becoming so attractive, man. I mean, that's as simple as that. And when you explain it to people outside of the industry, like one of my favorite things to do is to talk to my wife about business. She's extremely smart. She's very, very wise, and she knows me, so she knows what I'm saying. She can read between the lines and know how much weight it really has,
Right.
rather than me just talking shop, if you will. Shout out to Leah Skalstad, best confidant and best friend of all time. But the point is that when I talk to somebody that is outside of the industry about what's happening in the industry, they're almost confused of the things that I'm saying.
So tell me some stuff that would confuse them. The commission cap, obviously, that's a big one.
Absolutely, because a lot of people hear, if you're a mortgage loan officer, oh man, that's the easiest way to not come from money, to not have, an unbelievable master's degree and become wealthy. I mean, a lot of people use the mortgage industry as a way to build wealth, and gain knowledge in real estate and find ways of getting to higher levels in their income and higher levels in society without having to have the master's degree, the pedigree family, the things of that nature. And we've seen, we all have friends that have risen through the ranks in the mortgage industry that have done extremely well, that probably, they probably beat the odds in their family, or maybe they were the first person in their family to do something of this level. And, I think that a lot of bosses or a lot of executives that are leading teams forget that at one point they were in that exact same position. And at some point,
Empathy, baby.
empathy is it. Empathy is it.
I have, if you go in my office, I have a tassel from when I graduated high school in 2007. It's purple and gold. It's hanging in there. Go look at it afterwards if you want. You want to know why I do that? To remind me where I came from. So shout out to Amsterdam, New York. It taught me a lot. But you have to be grounded. Where were you? Where were you when this was happening? What were you doing? What were your actions? So on and so forth, right? So when you get to that, CEO role, which I'm technically the CEO. I don't feel like a CEO, but I'm technically the CEO, right? And you're making decisions. Well, one of the things I said is, how do we increase our comp plan? So we're in a quote unquote bad market. How do we increase the comp plan? How do we provide more support? How do we provide more training? How do we get them to this conference? How do we get them to this sales training? How do we get them to produce at a level that they didn't think possible? How do we get them to believe in themselves, right? How do we provide incentive for them to keep doing that? How do we get Eric aboard? How do we get Mike aboard? How do we get Ben producing over in Myrtle Beach and in the position that he wanted to be in since we started the business? How do we get Ron to make more money than he's ever made? Same with Candace and anybody else who comes into that side of it.
Right.
How do we do that? Imagine being a CEO of a company and signing off and saying, let's cap their monthly commission at $6,500. Okay, well, to me, I'm reading the book Atlas Shrugged right now. I'm almost done with it.
Ayn Rand. Nice.
Yeah, second time through it. I read it once in college, which it made me a believer. I truly, and I told you this in the car today, I believe that capitalism can save the world if it's applied correctly.
Right.
And we can get into that on another podcast, but there's a part where they talk about this was a Starnes Auto Company. It was out in Colorado. And it's a fictional company that was in this book. And it was one of the best car makers in the world, and you were rewarded for your great work. That's the positivity of capitalism.
Right.
They came in and they voted that everyone's going to get paid on need instead of production now.
Right.
So this company is now paying, not MBI, because we'll never do this because I'm, capitalist through and through. This company is now saying, hey, if you do X amount of work and you bring in 15 loans, and the total commission typically would have been $30K, but with 15 loans, it's probably more than that. I mean,
Right.
15 loans is probably close to 100. Has to be
Right.
like 70 to
Yeah,
100,000.
depending on the market. Yeah.
But you're only gonna get 6,500,
Right.
and we're gonna keep 94
Right.
of your money,
And
not including the money that I would
Right.
make.
And I promise we're going to continue to take care of you.
Welcome to corporate America.
Yeah,
Exactly.
dude, okay, so if your commission is capped, we won't cap it here, and we'll give you more resources than you're getting there. And wherever there is, if they're capping your commission, they don't have your best interest in mind. Do they care about what your bills are? Do they care about maybe your pay? Mortgage is one of those businesses where pay stub W-2 employees can earn over $1 million.
Right.
And I was on a call with 100 top producers in the industry, and 33 of them made over $1 million last year in the quote unquote worst market ever.
Yep.
And I say quote unquote, I'm not saying it's not hard, but it's a mindset too. Let's go
Yes.
out and get it.
Well, winners win. And the best part about people that know how to win is that more than likely, if they know how to win, they've lost. And they learn from their losses. In my opinion, winners don't continue to win because that's all they've done. Winners win because they've learned from their losses.
Right.
And they understand that losing is a vital part of winning. And they don't take it personally. They view it as part of the process. And by losing being part of the process, it humbles you. It helps you build character. It makes you hungry. And it helps you remember where you come from. And so the success feels so much better once you've understood that mindset because, you're in a place where you can actually appreciate it.
Well, the thing is that what these companies are doing, they are putting the winners on an island.
Yes.
And I don't care how good you are. If you're on an island by yourself, you cannot be successful.
No.
You can't do anything to gain success because they've cut your legs out from underneath you.
Yep.
And that's, one of the things that we talk about here is we want everybody to be super duper successful, but we also want to reward you for that success, and we want to back you with our team. And it's why it's going to be the greatest place to work in 2024 and so on. So
That's why we won't go public.
exactly.
I'm not going to answer to shareholders.
I'm not either.
So it's just, and because that's what they're doing. They're answering to shareholders. And,
They're still millionaires.
they're still millionaires. And I bet their bonus checks got fatter because bottom line looks better. Is the bottom line better if you're cutting your nose off to spite your face?
Well, plus, when companies go public, and this is just from me being in the trenches, speaking to the people that made the company successful enough to go public, they're forgotten about. They're no longer taken into consideration when changes are made, if they were ever. And even the executive team doesn't have as much power because now the most important people are the shareholders. And so all of the people that work their tail off, that sacrificed for the company, that put in years, that took time away from their family, took time away from their own dreams and hopes, now their word is not important because now the company has to answer to shareholders. And so all of those people, their voices are kind of go unheard.
Well, agreed. There's a select few companies like Elon Musk from a CEO. Even I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. Matt Ishbia doesn't answer to his shareholders, and they're public, right? So there's a few personalities that can make it work, but when that personality, when Matt retires or Elon retires or whatnot, when that's gone, then it's all about the shareholders.
Right.
But not every company is like that. Not every CEO is strong-willed enough. A lot of them, like founders of companies, people who grew those companies, like Elon and Matt, a lot of them, once they go public, they're cashing out.
Right.
Shout out to those two for not.
Yeah.
And no, I do not drink the UWM Kool-Aid. I do think that they have the best technology and they get things closed the quickest and they have great pricing. But I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm not a member of AIM. But what I'm getting at is, like, I watch how he responds when there was something. I read a lot of HousingWire, and there was something in there, and he said, I'm making the best decision for UWM. Well, what about the shareholders? I'm the CEO of this company for a reason.
Right.
That's CEO. And Elon, same thing with both Tesla, with X, which is formerly known as Twitter, SpaceX, that damn, he builds I forget what
He's tunneling under it. Yeah.
yeah, from Las Vegas to
Los
California,
Angeles, yeah.
Los Angeles. Like, so he's those are those are generational leaders that there's not a lot of,
Right.
that isn't afraid of the shareholder,
Right.
but they also make their shareholders a lot of money because they're doing what's right for the company because they're in the trenches.
Well, that's it, and that's kind of what we've been talking about since we were connected. I mean, I think you called me, what, 5 months ago?
Oh yeah,
or so.
I had a dream about you.
You had a dream about me, and honestly, I was flattered. Obviously, he's dressed extremely well. I'm thankful that you dreamt about me. But most importantly, what it started to do was it started to kind of turn my wheels. It started to kind of make me evaluate my future. It made me evaluate where the business was headed. And then I started to kind of ask around to some of the leaders that I've been fortunate enough to work with, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen in residential lending going forward? What are your thoughts on the broker model? How do you think that, as much as Guaranteed Rate and Cross Country and all the other big box lenders, as much as they don't want to admit it, how much do you think they're trying to adopt the broker model? Purely because, when you're in a traditional lending model, again, you're held to a range of products. You're held to a limited group of people that you can recruit for and from, and it takes the magic out of the business. The bureaucracy is really gumming up the gears of everything that we're all human endeavoring into. And so, I think that if we can find a way to take care of people, provide them a clear path of success, give them the resources needed, and acknowledge their successes, who's not going to want to work here?
Agreed. I mean, you mentioned bureaucracy. I agree 1,000%. It gums up the wheels of success, because then you put people who are. This isn't every mid-level manager or whatnot, but a lot of mid-level management gets in the way of it too, which is what creates bureaucracy. It's that lisp again. But that's one of the things we're going to be super light on is mid-level management. Now we're going to need help and we're going to need people who can help us, but it's going to be a different style of mindset. And if you have the right leadership trainings and you can really put your vision into a company. I mean, we're looking at buying this building in downtown Rock Hill here and having 4,000 employees. We're going to have some type of management. I'm not blind to that, but also we're going to have to stay nimble. And you mentioned a lot of these big box lenders, Guaranteed Rate, which is one of my least favorite. They're trying to adopt the broker model, but you know what they're doing out in the field, and I see this every day? They try to cut the brokers off at the knees.
Right.
You want to know what that says? I smell fear.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I ran into one. I'm doing drop-ins down in Charleston last week, meeting with my partners and such. And I stopped by one of the realtor shops down there, and it was actually on the 14th. It was Valentine's Day. And again, shout out to my wife for being the best and supportive. Like, I was gone on Valentine's Day trying to grow the business. And, I stop in there, and they're finishing up their weekly meeting. And I asked for the realtor broker, and she brings out her lender, who's a bank, and the loan officer there,
Sure.
older gentleman, about 60 years old, dressed in a raggedy golf shirt, looks some khakis and a belt that's been used too much.
Right.
I'm not judging his appearance, but I had my blue pinstripe suit on, power tie, white shirt underneath, walking in, just trying to be nice, make a connection. And this guy says to me, he says, well, I'm their preferred lender. I was like, oh, great. Put my hand out. Nice to meet you. So what is it that y'all do? So we're talking, so he's starting off by taking shots. Like he probably saw me, and he was a lot smaller than me, and
Right.
I smell fear.
That's what happens.
And so he starts taking some backhanded shots. Well, what you do and what I do, they aren't the same thing. I was like, I know. We get way more done. We get way more done. And I was like, so what is it exactly that you do for your clients? He's like, well, first off, they're not clients because that would imply that there's a contract. They're customers.
Oh, please.
I was like, oh, okay, buddy.
Right.
And he was like, and it's not the same thing in the court of law and this, that, and the other thing. I said, well, I'm glad that our general counsel is good because he would probably help me out if I got brought into the court of law for calling one of my home buyers a client instead of a customer. And if that brings me to court, then so be it.
Amen.
And
Amen.
and so he then says to me, he was like, and again, we just don't do the same thing. I said, okay, so for your customers, sir, I said, what is it that you do? And I'm being super respectful, and I'm being very nice compared to what I could have been. Like sometimes I'm a little bit of a rattlesnake. This day I was a gardener snake.
Right.
I was looking for the mouse, but I wasn't quite ready to eat yet.
Understood.
So I said to him, so, okay, so if we don't do the same thing, can I ask you a question? Do you help people get the financing to buy a home? Primary residence, investment properties, second homes, maybe commercial buildings. Do you do that? He said, yes. I said, then we do the exact same thing.
Right.
Because that's what I do too. And the realtor broker in charge looked at me. She's like, I love you. Can I have a couple of your business cards? I was like, yes, absolutely. And then he looks at me and he's like, well, listen, I'm not trying to. I winked at him. I said, sir, I know exactly what you're trying to do.
Well done.
And then I said, but it was nice to meet you. And he walked out.
Right.
And then I called Mike and I said, dude, that shit lit a fire under me. I got this fire burning in me. I went to 40 shops. 39 of them I had never been to before. I went to 40 different shops the next day. I probably walked 30 miles in 2.5 days down there.
I had to buy a new pair of shoes.
I was going to say,
yeah.
wearing out the soles, yeah.
Oh, dude, look, you see the brown shoes I wear? How worn out were they when I got back? I said, look at this. Look at this.
Yeah, they were cream instead of brown.
Oh,
They
yeah.
wore it all off.
Oh, man. It got me. It got me, but it speaks to what you're saying. The direct-to-consumer model, not only is it worse for the consumer, the customer, or like I like to say, our home buying client.
Right.
Not only is it worse for them from a pricing standpoint, it's worse from them from an interest rate that is pricing, interest rate, closing costs. HMDA data, HMDA, look it up, Google it. HMDA data states that mortgage brokers save their clients on average $9,400 per transaction. Just Google that, read the articles. They're all out there. And no, you aren't having to you do pay a mortgage broker fee, but you're not paying us directly. A lot of times we're set up on lender paid, so it's not being considered into your closing costs and such. And we'll explain that whole piece to you. So, and the reason I say that because I'm getting in front of what our competition says. Oh well, they're gonna charge you a third party fee. We're charging the same amount that they're charging.
Right.
Actually, no, we aren't. We're charging less because even if we maxed out our comp, the maximum we can make is 2.75%.
Right.
We also can't charge on the front end and the back end. What that means is if it's lender paid, it's built into the rate. If it's borrower paid, it's built into the closing cost. We have to choose one or the other. You want to know what mortgage lenders do? They choose both.
Of course.
Because when 2008 happened, and a little bit of education out there, when 2008 happened, instead of blaming the big banks and mortgage-backed securities and the people who were giving A grades to D and bonds, they blamed the mortgage broker, and they took the mortgage broker's head off, and they put a bunch of regulation around that. But you want to know what's funny? History, right? History has a way of making me laugh.
Right.
Because they tried to devastate the mortgage brokers because they needed a scapegoat, even though only one person went to jail for that whole scandal, which caused the housing market crash. Go watch the movie The Big Short. Great movie. So they put a bunch of regulation around the mortgage broker. And they said, we're going to blame you. A lot of shops closed up, stopped lending. Market share went from like 35% to less than 8%.
Right.
Well, we're back up in the 40%, and we're coming. But the regulation they put around us saying that we can't charge more than that 2.75%, we can't split our fee front and back end, we aren't even really allowed to charge a processing fee or anything like that unless it's a third-party processor that is separate from our business. Right. So that's how we're lowering the fees, plus we're capped. Most direct-to-consumer lenders, they're charging like 4% in fees, which is wild. Right. They can go up to 5% total, but what they're doing to try to hide it, they're like, oh, let me get you a better interest rate. So what they do is they lower so whatever they're charging in the rate, some of them up to 3%, meaning if par rate is 5%, you're getting hit with 8% because you're paying for their origination fee. Right. They'll drop it to 1.5%. Oh, here, got you a better rate. But then all of a sudden, there it is on the back end, 1.5% in origination. Yeah, we're only charged 1.5% in origination. What I found about these direct-to-consumer lenders, especially the ones who constantly, I call it negative recruiting. Mm-hmm. or bash people. I'll never say a bad word about any of my competitors except for Movement Mortgage. But I'm just kidding. Movement, I love y'all. I think you guys are doing great things in the community, even though you charge your clients for it and then say it's charity. But so I'll never say a bad. And what I will compliment Movement on is they do close loans in 15 days. They're good at that.
Absolutely.
So, but just don't say it's charity when your rates are higher than everybody else in the industry. It's not charity. You're charging it to the customer.
Right.
So what I'm getting at though is what they'll do is they split the rate, right? And they split it and you're still paying them more, which is why we're saving. And they'll hide that on you and then they'll negative recruit against us saying we charge you fees that they don't charge. Actually, no. If you ever hear that, again, remember this. Go to Google, type in HMDA, says mortgage brokers save clients on average $9,400 per transaction. Go and type that in. And that regulation they put around us in 2008, you know what it did? It made us more competitive, and it was an advantage, which is why we have 40% of the market share, projected to go over 50% of all the market share in the entire industry. And it's why that old guy down in Charleston tried to throw a punch, and then he got hit with a sledgehammer.
Well, man, that's what happens. I mean, the unfortunate thing is that we're all chasing after we're all in the same battle.
Right.
We're all chasing after the exact same wheel of cheese rolling down the hill. And some people can catch it more than others, but the bad thing is that there's so many people that allow ego and the fear of that ego being changed or the fear of the way people may view them. You know, my dad and my grandfather always had this amazing view. There's always three people in you: the person that you want people to know that you are, the person you think you are, and the person you really are.
Right.
And the first two are pretty much predicated upon ego and fear. And the unfortunate thing is in business, I think everybody in this room knows is that our secret weapon as a successful business person is our honesty, is our empathy, is we're going to do what we say that we're going to do.
Right.
The unfortunate thing is there's a tremendous amount of people out there that say it really well, that have a silver tongue, that promise everything, but when it comes down to it, they're short to deliver. And that happens with companies, that happens with leaders, that happens with branch managers, that even happens with loan officers that are promising the world to the people that they report to.
It's always better to tell the truth.
Tell the truth and under-promise and over-deliver, guys. Like, why complicate things?
Right, 100%. And I think that I know that you're a great compliment to me because I'll take shots out, and you always take such a professional route. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about you. And I'm not taking like hard shots. Like I think that Movement Mortgage is a good lender. But you mentioned something that ego and fear, and it reminds me of the movie Guardian of the Galaxy, where is it Guardian of the Galaxy where ego is created.
Yes,
ego will destroy you,
yep.
And so will fear. If you are afraid of something, face the fear. It doesn't matter if it's prospecting, calling clients, drop-ins. Shout out to Trey for being on his drop-ins, locking down that York County right now. It doesn't matter what it is. Ego and fear will destroy you. I'm Catholic. We believe in 7 deadly sins.
Sure.
So, like, those will destroy you as well, right? But, like, ego and fear from a business perspective, and the other piece is if you say something and you can't deliver, be man enough to own it. You mentioned losses, and I was going to bring this up when you mentioned it. Ben and I wouldn't call it a disagreement, but I got pissed on the podcast, and our viewers, we have some episodes with like 70,000 views, some like hundreds of thousands of views on this podcast.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
I never thought it. They love him. They hate me. It's great. Listen, but I need enemies. That's what kind of keeps me going.
Oh, absolutely.
And I love enemies. Like
Well, if you don't have enemies, you're not doing enough.
Well, sometimes I'll create them too.
Right.
Yeah, like in my mind.
He has imaginary friends that nobody knows about.
Okay.
They aren't
Good
friends.
conversation.
Imaginary enemies. But long story short, he said losses. And I said, I don't believe in losses. And he's like, what? I don't think that there's anything such as a loss.
Right.
I really don't. I call them stepping stones.
Learning.
Yeah. Like,
Opportunities.
hey, this happened. How do I get better? Hey, this happened. How do I get better? Every time you learn from it. I also believe in levels. So, and then I'm going to get into the last thing I believe, which touched on the last point you made, is so there's levels. And every time you get into a new level, you start on the bottom and then you have to work your way up. Yeah. But as you're working your way up, there's going to be people who are there to support you. There's going to be people who are there to give you advice. There's going to be people who are there to take from you. There's going to be people there to lie about you. There's going to be people who knock you down.
Right.
I'm sure there's going to be stuff said about me at some point. I know there is. Like I've already told Mike, I said at some point they're going to come from us. We just aren't big enough.
Right.
We're going to be.
Right.
We just aren't big enough. At some point they will come for us. So when that happens, we have to be prepared, and our house has to be clean.
Yeah.
And my house is always going to be clean. You know, we might have former employees say we're the worst place to work. And for that employee, we may have been.
Right.
Because we're a small business that's just starting. We might have former employees who, you know, because each person needs something different.
Yeah.
You know, and none of that's happened yet. We have all 5-star reviews. I have all 5-star reviews. Every loan officer has 5-star reviews so far. But none of that happened. But it will at some point. At some point, we might get, you know, another lawsuit filed against us. The last lawsuit was because Reliance First Capital couldn't take the fact that Goliath took a loan officer,
Right.
or David took a loan officer from Goliath.
Yeah.
Right. And they tried to get us to pay $16,000. And I just laughed. And I read the cease and desist on air.
Right.
That was one of the highest rated episodes we had.
To me, when I'm recruiting, and this has only happened a few times in my career, but when you get a cease and desist, it immediately shocks you because you're like, oh my gosh, something's happening.
I love it.
But then you start to think to yourself, well, dang, I'm doing my job. If they are so afraid
Right.
of my penetration into their marketplace and into their organization that they're issuing me a cease and desist, then I've done what I've said I'm going to do.
Right. And 99% of the time, it's just a scare tactic.
It's just to stop the bleeding.
Right. And the other piece, too, is like I mentioned I was in trucking.
Yeah.
You know how many times I got sued in trucking?
Really?
Listen, dude, we were delivering flowers to Walmart, and we were parked there, and somebody literally backed their car up into the truck and tried to say they rear-ended them. We had forward-facing cameras, but like it was 1 of 5 times. I'm fucking 5-0 in lawsuits.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, undefeated.
I love it.
Yeah, isn't that the biggest?
Tom Brady of
Not I don't have 7.
right.
Well, I guess if you count Reliance First Capital, that never took us to the court and just kind of went away, that would be 6-0.
Knocking on his door.
Yeah, Reliance, come for me. I'm just kidding. No, I got enough headaches. But the last thing I was going to talk about is when you said direct to consumer, you said, you know, ego and fear, and there's a fear that you said we're all chasing the same ball of cheese.
Yeah, rolling down the hill.
Wheel of cheese, whatever. But we're chasing it. I believe in this thing called prosperity, and I think that it's a Gary V mindset.
Yeah.
There's more than enough out there for all of us.
Yeah.
Go get it.
Right.
Stop worrying about what he's doing. Do you think I'm worried about the people who copied our business model? I'm not worried about them.
No.
I'm not worried about anyone. I say the stuff I do about movement and Reliance and all of that because it's entertaining. It's meant as entertainment. It's not meant as personal shot. I hope they have all the success in the world. I just wish they would stop overcharging their customers because I care about Americans.
Exactly.
That's all I hope for.
Right.
I wish they would stop overcharging their clients. And they are, but also I understand that they have a business and they have a lot more overhead. So they have to.
Of course.
So
Of course. Plus, it drives good, healthy competition into
Right.
the marketplace. It also, I love the term, rising tides rises all boats or rises all ships because, when large companies are doing well, it helps a lot of the other lenders that fall underneath them gain more traction. And there's a tremendous amount of turnover in those larger companies, which when those people are let go or when they're laid off, they're hired. That talent is redistributed to places where it's needed. Where they can add value, where at this moment, at this time, it's going to be utilized.
This is the last thing. I got a bunch of clients that I got to get to today. Super pumped. I appreciate every single one of them. You'll probably see this the cut up of this little clip next week. But today's today, and I appreciate you right now, and it's live, so that's cool. Eric, if you were recruiting me right now to come to NBI Financial Group, give me your elevator pitch. Why should I sit down and have a conversation and think about coming here?
First thing, one, be honest with yourself on where you're at in your career. One, be honest with yourself on what you're capable of doing and what your knowledge base is. Those things should be the foundation. Then, when somebody like myself reaches out to you, especially at NBI, recognize that that person has already done their homework on you. That person has already verified your production. That person has already looked at your Facebook, your LinkedIn. They already know exactly what you do and how you do it. So you should, at that point, not be excited to get the call, but you should realize that if somebody like myself from NBI is calling you, it's because it is a personal call. I'm not calling 40 of you that day. I'm looking for you. And so when you're going to come aboard at NBI, one, you need to recognize that I wouldn't be calling you if we didn't have the resources to help you. I wouldn't be calling you if our onboarding wasn't ironed out. I wouldn't be calling you if we didn't know what our recruiting process was and also the resources that we could offer the people that we bring in. At MBI, we're able to, again, like I've mentioned multiple times, in the last couple of days and also on this podcast, we don't have the restrictions that traditional lenders have. You're not held to a certain number of products. You're not held to a certain pool that you can recruit from. You're also not in a position where you're going to be forgotten about. And the best part about MBI is our leader is on the floor, getting his elbows dirty, training, teaching, and making people get better. Our chief revenue officer is developing the business, making sure that the people that we bring in are taken care of, supported, and keeping things healthy and fresh. I'm bringing in the people that are going to add to our business, bring in production, and hopefully elevate our level of standards and what we expect every day. And so those level of standards and what we expect, I'm hoping that those are characteristics that are within that candidate. And hopefully they know that as well. And so when you're coming to MBI, you're getting amazing resources, you're getting outstanding leadership, and more importantly, you're getting an opportunity to grow in a space that is absolutely changing in your favor if you are adopting this model. If you're at a traditional retail lender and you're at a big box, sure. If you're a winner, you're always going to win. You'll find ways to win. But if you're one of those people that have been in the industry for 2 years, 3 years, you got a job because you're an amazing salesperson, a big box lender took a shot on you, and then they forgot about you, this is the place to come and find development, coaching, and an actual opportunity to be competitive amongst your peers.
I love it. Mike, one of the things that I would add to what Eric said, and I want to touch on a couple of things.
Sure.
You said he keeps it fresh, doing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
He's also in the car doing drop-ins with new guys because he's one of the best sales minds out ever, right?
I have noticed.
Oh, yeah, I know you have. We've talked about that. Like,
Yeah.
we speak very highly of you when you're not around.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but when you're around, we don't. I'm just kidding. I'm
That's
kidding.
okay.
I'm kidding, Mike. But no, he's in the car. He's helping the team. He put a 30, 60, 90 plan together. Like, you come here, and you got one of the best sales minds who is going to train you on what you need to do to bring in business. You mentioned I'm still producing, so I'm seeing those live bullets and I'm communicating into the team. This works, this doesn't work. You mentioned if you're a winner, you're going to win anywhere, right? I say, yeah, if you're a winner, you're going to win anywhere. But if you're a winner, you'll win more here.
Absolutely. And
So-
a lot of the times, the people that should be winners, other people haven't recognized that yet. Maybe they even haven't recognized that within themselves, and that's what we're here for.
Awesome. And then on a light note, because that was a great podcast, I think. It was intense. It was fun. You're going to be on much more. Prior to you coming up from Florida, we'll have you on that screen. You'll be on Zoom. We can do all that now. Probably once a week I'll have you on.
Perfect.
And Ben will be sitting here, and I'm sure there's some questions he's going to ask, and we're going to get into more and more stuff because my mind is going on all the questions I want to ask you. So something fun. What is the wildest thing that you've ever seen in your recruiting career from somebody you were trying to bring aboard a company? Because I have a feeling that this is going to be like that old Notre Dame coach who faked his resume and ended up getting fired before his first game.
Right. See, I have a couple levels, to be honest with you. And
Oh,
I've been
go to
doing
the
this for a
top.
I'll start at the top. One, I think I told you guys about this the other day. I received a very, very interesting text message from a candidate of mine about 2 or 3 years ago at 1:30 a.m. He texted the wrong Eric. I won't talk about the contents of that text message, but let's just say.
Oh, please do.
I can't say it.
Why? You don't have to say his name.
It's a little bit basically this individual was wanting to hang out with a friend of his. Apparently he knows more than one Eric.
So was he a question? And Mike, can you go to the wide shot on this? Because it's going to be more of a conversation because this is going to be like a hard-hitting interview.
Sure.
So you're going to have to push back on the stuff you don't want to say. Was this person, I'm not going to ask states, I'm not going to ask any information about the person. You're recruiting this person, were they a top producer?
Probably the top in their state.
Wow. Okay. And so he texts the wrong Eric.
At 1:30 a.m. on a Friday night, Saturday morning.
I've already heard the story.
Oh, jeez.
And it was the contents of that text message are all the things that a man doesn't want to text by accident. And
You're going to have to clarify that. What do you mean?
Indulgences of all kinds. Just hanging out with a friend of his. Indulgences of all kinds were put into this text message.
Right.
And unfortunately, fortunately, I was at a director level at that time.
So when you say indulgences, was there like illegal activity?
Illegal.
I would say so.
Illegal.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's so professional.
Well, I
Who, me?
No.
well put it this
Eric?
way. I recognize that two things as a recruiter, and again, I make the joke. I don't even like calling myself a recruiter. It's like saying bomb on an airplane.
You're not. You're a chief growth officer.
Thank you. When I like to build, I like to keep things positive because I know that you never know who you're going to be working with 5
Right.
years from now.
Agreed.
Right? And more importantly, you never know who those people know. And so I always like to take the high road. There's a lot less competition up there, and the scenery is beautiful.
Right.
But the things in that text message, because I was at a director level, normally if that was just a loan officer, I'd be like, okay, whatever, I won't hire him. No big deal. But unfortunately, because this person was such a high producer, I had to bring it to the attention of who I reported to. Interestingly enough, they wound up getting hired 2 years later.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So I think that was a smart decision.
Yeah.
Because high character individuals and you want
100%.
your reputation's tied to them. I do know the context of the text message, but I'm not going to say it because I don't think that you're comfortable with it on air, which is fine.
Right.
And that respect to you, that shows that you're protecting the people that you recruit.
Always.
One of the first question I ask, how much revenue would this person have brought in, say, day one per year?
About $1 billion a year on the
A
whole
million or a billion?
A billion.
Like-
billion. On the whole
Is
system.
Austin Powers $1 million or $1 billion?
He's a big B.
Big B.
Absolutely.
So like a billion with a bold B.
Absolutely, in a state that is probably the hardest state to do mortgages in, New York, and one of the roughest places to truly carve your name into the market.
Gotcha. So, wow.
And that's just the top.
That
I
was
mean,
so for you, for your mindset when you got this text message, and obviously you respect the person because of how hard they're working, but there's certain things from a professional standpoint that you have to do. That you probably, part of you was probably like, damn, I do not want to have to deliver this news.
one, I don't want to deliver the news. Two, if this was anybody else, I'd look the other way because I don't judge people off of what they do in their personal life. As
Right.
long as they conduct themselves professionally and they don't bring it into the professional world, it's not my business.
Right.
But it was brought into my professional world because our connection is only through something in business.
And now if something happened that would have gotten this person in any type of trouble after, and you knew about this, then you're not doing what you're supposed to do, or how would that? What would have happened there?
Well, see, I like to work with people that have the same level, if not higher level of integrity that I have.
Right.
And I know, and I truly, truly loved the company that I was working for.
Right.
And I took my job extremely seriously, and I was very thankful for the level that they had promoted me to.
Right.
And I knew that if I was going to take myself seriously, and if going forward in my career, other people were going to take me seriously, then I needed to make the right decision when no one was looking.
I think that people should do that more in life. I commend you for the decision because you probably would have made money based on that person's production.
A lot.
A whole lot.
Right. So you turned down what the kids nowadays call a bag,
Couple bags.
couple bags
Yes, sir.
to do the right thing.
Yeah.
That's why you're at MBI. Listen, everyone, we appreciate y'all for watching. We appreciate Mike. We appreciate Eric, you too, Big Boss Ben, everybody out on the floor, Joe, Trey, if you're back, Candace, if you're watching, Ron, my beautiful wife, who's our compliance officer, Liz, Eric's wife, Mike's wife, Ben's wife, everybody who's here supporting MBI, we appreciate you. We appreciate all the people watching this. Before you go, though, I need you to do one thing. Go ahead and bang that red subscribe button and turn on your notifications. That way, anytime that we are having a podcast or we're talking, and it's not just going to be our podcast, we have other podcasts as well. Joe has a podcast that he's going to be doing with some people on the floor. Ben might do some stuff here by himself. Eric might want to do some stuff and talk to different producers in the industry. But anytime we do something, if you bang the red subscribe button and you turn on those notifications, you're going to know when NBI Financial Group LLC has the Loan Guys podcast or any of the other podcasts that we're going to start broadcasting 5 days a week. The Loan Guys podcast. What is that? That's this one. It's going to be every Tuesday and Friday from 9:30 to 10:30, and we are not going to miss it. 2024 is the year of growth. It's the year of growth. It's why we have a chief growth officer, a chief revenue officer, a CEO, apparently. That's why we're all here. Is we're here to grow. We're coming. We're recruiting. We're hiring. We're the best in the industry at what it is we do. One of the things we forgot to mention for loan officers out there, we also do commercial, and we can get into that in your recruiting calls. But yeah, bang the red subscribe button, turn on notifications. We appreciate you all for joining us. NBI Financial Group LLC across all of our social media. I'm Mortgage Man Nick. This is Eric Skalstad. He's on Facebook and LinkedIn. That over there, you don't see him yet because you aren't ready for him. That's Mike Allman Fishing. Go hit him up on Instagram. It's probably going to change. I don't know. Maybe it won't.
Yeah,
Fun fact about Mike, he's a great fisherman. So we're out. Peace.